Well, thank you so much for meeting me here today, Dr. Brandyburg. I'm excited to get to know you more and for everyone else to get to know you as well. So let's start off pretty simple. Tell us a little bit about you, who you are, what you're running for, and why you're running for this position.
First of all, just in case you haven't heard, my name is Lawrence Brandyburg. I'm running for Texas House District 85, which is consists of 5 counties and some outlying areas in the district. So I am a native of the big city of Brookshire, Texas. Grew up there, went to high school there, and graduated from high school in Brookshire, and eventually ended up going on a track scholarship to Blinn College, where I ran track for 2 years. And after I finished at Blinn, I transferred to Prairie A&M University, and where we're at here today, which is always exciting because that's really where I think about my real start on my life and my education, and also my opportunities in life. So pretty much graduated from Prairie View as a commissioned second lieutenant and went into the military. So the military was my first career. And after the military, of course, just kind of between the military, there was combat. I actually participated in the first Operation Desert Storm as a logistics officer. So after the war, I, of course, decided that I was going to go on to civilian life. And so initially, when I was in civilian life, I decided I wanted to take a look at doing retail work. So I was a retail director for a toy company that you may have heard of, which is Toys R Us. And Toys R Us made me realize in every aspect of life how blessed I was to be able to have a normal job. Because at Toys R Us, I worked 80 hours a week, and I ran a store. I was a store director, and that was an interesting career, and really kind of me make a decision to do other things.
Right. Learning experience.
That's right. But of course, after Toys R Us, I found the career that was the best life I had ever imagined, and that was, of course, becoming a professor of sociology at Tomball College. Matter of fact, I taught race, class, and gender, social psychology, sociology, and marriage and family. So I kind of had a little diversity in the things that I taught about. I did that for 13 years, and then, leadership background in the military and also with toys, I decided I wanted to go into management. Eventually, I applied for a dean position at Lone Star, so it was Lone Star College in general. And I ended up, first job I had was a executive director for Lone Star College University Park. And then after Lone Star College University Park, I went into the dean position at Lone Star College Montgomery. I basically worked at almost all the campuses. And somewhere in that process, I ended up accepting a job as vice president of a brand new, which was Lone Star College University Park. So I was the founding vice president of Lone Star College University Park. So after Lone Star College University Park, I went to Lone Star College Jakarta. Opportunity. Ex-military, I travel thing, and I doing new exciting things. So I accepted a job as the CEO of Lone Star College Jakarta. So I ran that campus. From then I made my way back, served as a special assistant to the president. After that, I retired. So after 27 years with Lone Star, I retired and picked up another opportunity as a executive vice president of a college in Mobile, Alabama, Bishop State Community College. Then I became the interim president there. And after a while, I decided it was time for me to go back to Texas. So back in Texas, I was sitting around thinking about what I wanted to do to keep myself busy. So I was a precinct judge participating in Waller County politics. And I also was a school board. I was on Royal Independent School Board. I think that was almost 10 years. But it was a pretty good run. Had an opportunity to be able to start some programs. I was able to start a early college high school program at Royal in conjunction with Lone Star. Actually, I did that before I retired. So that's kind of a little about me. Kind of a homeboy, homegrown country boy that has had a lot of opportunities in life.
But you stayed really busy. So what better way to keep yourself busy than to just dive into this new adventure?
That's right.
So what was it exactly that you made that shift? Well, I'm just going to dabble and do some things locally, to shifting to no, I'm going to actually run for a statewide position.
Because I have to tell you, I had always thought about running for a state office, like a representative position. But I always looked at the map And I looked at the map and I said, there is absolutely no way that I can win because of the way the maps are drawn.
Right.
But this year was a little bit different. I was kind of looking at the atmosphere, looking at what's going on. And I said, this may be the year, this may be the time. But I thought about it all the way until December the 8th. And I was sitting at my desk and I decided that I was going to run. So I called the chair for the Waller County Democratic Party. And I said, I'm going to do it. But I drove. I made it to Austin barely, about 30 minutes before the office closed. So I made it, and I made the decision. Basically, I was just thinking about the famous quote, I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired of the craziness that was going on, even in the state, even though we feel a little bit, there are things that are a little crazier at the national level.
Right.
But all of that stuff rolls downhill to the state.
Right.
And so I said, we have to do something. And my thought has been, we got to start somewhere, because one person in the office is not going to do anything. Right. So I want to be a part of state effort with people, meeting people on the campaign trails. I'm meeting people that are running for office. And we're just talking about how important it is for us to develop this coalition to be able to make our way to the State House and actually change things. And I think it's important that we go to the State House and change things. I mean, we have to make a change because things are not where they need to be for the future, I believe, of our state.
Well, thank you so much for being determined to get down there even on the final day. I think that says a lot in itself, because you could have easily been like, I'm not going to make it. I guess I'm just not going to run this time. And that was not the message you gave yourself. You said, green light, go.
Heather, as I was driving down there, I emailed the ethics paperwork to the office, but I didn't get it verified that it was there. So I pulled off on the side of the road at 71 and I called him. I said, did you receive my paperwork? The guy says no. I was like, oh my God. So what I did, so I figured out I was able to email him, and I had let him verify that he had received it. It was a traumatic day.
I imagine it sounds traumatic just thinking about it, but I appreciate you for being a problem solver and troubleshooting and working through that. And again, that really shows us who you are and what you're capable of just in that part and what you're going to need going forward throughout this campaign. So thank you for doing that. So let's talk a little bit more specifically about this office. A lot of people don't even know what this office does. This is one of the most local office positions. People really need to be aware of it. So give us a little idea of what, in some real life terms for people to understand what this specific office is.
I think you're 100%. Most people have no idea what a state representative does. Mm-hmm. And I think you have to almost think of a state representative as the middleman between the person, the taxpayer, and the state. So that middle person that should know how the government works, knows what the laws are, knows what we do have control over, right? And so just kind of put it in a perspective. A person, let's use a veteran. A veteran is having trouble getting benefits or maybe just understanding what the state offers.
Right.
So that veteran would call his state representative and say, hey, I'm having trouble with this. Can you help me? So now that state representative in his office or their office goes and looks at the rules and finds out how they can help that person. And that goes not only for veterans, it goes for education. It goes for just general, even electricity bills and just almost anything you can almost think of that is a state-ran organization that has something to do with the state, that representative should be your intermediary between those areas.
So you've been out campaigning, going around meeting people. What are you hearing from your constituents in this District 85? What are some concerns that they're hearing?
Probably the big thing that always comes up is things like affordability. Yep. Others, education. Probably, if I was to say out of those two, they're probably right along the same line. And I'm also learning as I go through this process, I'm learning how informed the taxpayers are. And I always like to tell another story. I was in a little city and I was passing out my information and I handed something to a lady that was there. And she took it and she walks off. And then she turns around and she said, excuse me, sir. She says, what party are you in? And I said, I'm a Democrat. She says, well, I can't vote for you because I'm a Republican. I said, just out of curiosity, because I'm on a campaign trail now, can you tell me why? And the lady says to me, she says, the reason I can't vote for you is because Republicans are better on health care. And so the way I knew that she was not an informed voter, right? So what I learned from that is just getting the word out, and really explaining what the Democratic Party has done for the state and for the country.
So, if with what you're saying, the things that are the concerns that you're hearing, if you are elected, what are one of the things that you want to be quick to address in this position?
The one that I almost happened on education, right? I tell the story when I was in high school. My family made it to Texas in 1838. No one in my family had ever graduated from college, right? So I happened to be a pretty decent track person. I ran 110-meter high hurdles. And I had graduated from high school, and I was working. I had a little part-time job at the high school. And it just happened that the coach for Blinn College's basketball team came to recruit my best friend. And he happened to have the track coach with him. So the track coach, when he got to the high school, he remembered Royal High School. He said, there's a young guy that ran track here. His name was Brandyburg. And he said, where is he at? And someone said, he's out mowing the football field right now. So Coach Hamrick went out to the football field and asked me if I wanted to go to college, run track for Blinn College. I couldn't hardly believe that I'd offered a scholarship. So that was my first story. It was Blinn College, and then I had an opportunity to go on. I ran track at Prairie, and I got an ROTC. So education changed my life. I know that education is that one vehicle that will get people from lower income to middle class status.
Yeah.
That is one of the reasons why if I focus on something, I'm going to focus on education because I know it changes things.
Yeah.
And some of those things that we're having problems with could be fixed. You're not having health care because they can't afford it. Texas is at the bottom of the list when it comes to health care, people being enrolled in health care. And that's crazy. And I think that what I would be doing is trying to figure out how to make those things available for people because people need education and they need health care. And no one should have to be living a life where they're not able to go to the doctor when it's necessary.
We shouldn't be working this hard and not have health care. We've talked a lot about education. We've talked about how that is a big part of your background, very important to you. You've worked in education, and you talked about serving in the military. So how have those experiences shaped you to be who you are and to run for this office now?
I tell you what, God is amazing because he put me in those steps that changed my life and also prepared me for things, right?
Yeah.
So I was a logistical officer when I was with the 101st Airborne, and that's when I went into Operation Desert Storm. I worked for a gentleman. His name was Keith Huber. He was the commander. And Keith Huber was the most meticulous person I ever met in my life. Every detail. When we made a plan because I was a support person, so when we made a plan to support every detail, he would have us measure if we drive down the road 10 miles, how much gas it was going to cost us, how much supplies were going to be, every single detail to the almost crazy level. And I left there with that mindset. If I'm going to do something, if I'm going to plan something, I'm going to plan it in detail. I'm going to look for every route possible to be able to get the result that I need to be able to be successful. Right. So that's what I learned. I just learned that being consistent, everything in the most clear detail as possible.
Yeah.
I think the military probably played the biggest role.
You.
It helped me when I was in college, when I became a college president, every detail, doing strategic planning. We talk about even strategic planning when it comes to the state. Those things are very important.
Yeah. Seems like military really gave you that structure that you needed. And then education allowed you to build relationships and learn how to connect with people on that level.
Right.
You've been able to blend both, and that's going to be really helpful for what you're doing and for running for office, for sure. So, okay, so we're going to go back to education a little bit. We've talked about stance on education. We need to improve public education. Going a little bit deeper, what do we need to do? What does it look like improving public education?
Yes, I really do believe it's all about how we fund. And that's, again, one of the responsibilities of a representative is budgeting. And I really do believe that budgeting piece, because when I look at a high school classroom, in order for those kids to be successful, you need to fund someone to help the kids that are not up to scale, right? I know a lot of people will say, well, you're wasting taxpayer dollars because you're spending more money. But is it not worth our kids to have somebody in there to keep the class in shape, and then somebody for that one kid that may be afraid to raise their hand up and ask for help because you're going to hold everybody up, have somebody there to address that. I think we need to make an effort as a representative, find out what those grants are, what the available funding is out there, and specifically focus. Let's start with, let's make sure that the classrooms are fully staffed.
Yeah.
And then let's go to the next level.
Teacher pay.
Always. Most important people in your child's life is the teacher.
Right.
And they're the lowest paid folks. That's even at the college
Right.
level. Everyone that you've touched have prepared you to get to where you're at.
Not even just the teachers, but those paraprofessionals that work with the special needs kids.
Let me tell you, you mentioned the paraprofessionals. So one of the things that I did when I was at Lone Star is I noticed, just kind of to the superintendent in Royal Independent School District, they were losing people. And basically, they would lose people in Brookshire, because Brookshire is right next to Katy.
Right.
And Katy is, more money. So we lose, come there in a couple of years and then they're gone. And they'll go to Katy. So one of the things that I said we should do is we should focus on those paraprofessionals that are at the schools.
Right.
And because they're there, they have families there, they probably most likely going to stay. So I work with Texas Tech to come up with a program to, if those paraprofessionals want first, they send them 2 years of Lone Star College. And then after they finish those 2 years, had a program for 1 year at Texas Tech to finish all of that process so that they could be certified teachers and keep them into the program. So just kind of about things like that to enhance the school, to keep good people at the school, and also just come up with a plan to make sure you're fully staffed. And that's always a problem at the schools, is that they're just not fully funded.
Yeah, and if the state isn't funding it, if they're not the ones putting things in the classroom, who's doing it?
That's
teachers.
Right.
And then the teachers aren't even being paid enough. So it doesn't make sense adding it up. And we have the money. We just aren't putting it where it needs to go.
I think we all should always stay focused on education.
Absolutely. Yeah. So now let's talk a little bit, the second topic, which is healthcare. What is your stance on our current healthcare access? And what could you change realistically in your power? What would that look like?
Well, first of all, rural communities, which I'm hoping to represent, they are being hurt by everything that's going on by healthcare. Funding, transportation, all of those different. And not only that, but because so many people don't have healthcare. So if they're not paying for it, how are they going to operate? So I think it's important. There's a couple of things that are going on where they're looking at funding for rural communities and hospitals, right? And basically, these are looking at strategic planning, bringing people together and looking at where the needs are and the problems or where we're hurting at, and really understand that, and then coming up with a plan to how you're going to fix that. There are grants out there that, in a lot of cases, some rural communities don't know about those grants. So you have to get out there as a state representative. I have to get out there and I have to go find those grants, and I have to bring these people together. I have to do those visioning sessions where I'm sitting down talking to people and really experiencing what situations that they're in, what problems they're having, and bring all of this together and then help them to find those funding sources that will help them have the things that they need looked at, or the facilities, or either the transportation and just the funding that they need to be able to have health care. But again, Texas is at the bottom of the list, and we have to do better.
Right.
And truly, we can do better.
Well, we also choose to have privatized healthcare. So how do you feel about us shifting to universal healthcare? There's plenty of other countries that do that, and we don't.
The interesting thing is the myth of universal healthcare. You used to hear the stories, oh, Canada's, it's horrible. Germany is horrible. Now, let me tell you, I lived in Germany, and I saw some very happy Americans that when they had maternity leave, paid maternity leave for long periods of time, trust me.
Right.
Don't frown up. Don't fall for the trick. And the trick often is to make you afraid so that you will go against something. And universal, absolutely. We can afford it, and we can do something about it. I was in 3 years in Jakarta, Indonesia. Jakarta, Indonesia is very close to being a third world country. They have, you go to the main city, Jakarta, it's just like you're in New York, but outskirts, it's third world almost. But without any health care, you would walk into a facility and you would see a doctor, you'd get medicine, and you'd get x-rays or whatever, and you'd walk out of there with a bill for $50. And it would stop right there.
It's crazy.
You're not going to get a bill from these guys later on. We could say, oh, you really owe us $3,000. No. So don't tell me about universal health care because you don't know.
Right.
Somebody has misinformed you on that whole
Right.
concept.
Why is it so wrong for us if we're sending literal billions of dollars to another country for them to have universal health care? But why is it so bad for us?
Yeah.
Because they want to make money.
That's right.
Because they want to make money.
Because they're going to get the money. The money is
Right.
here in the U.S. and they're going to get the money from us.
Yeah.
And that's what they want us to do. And it doesn't have to be this way. People have to realize that we've been sold a lie
Absolutely.
from the beginning of time
Yep.
about that whole
Yeah.
concept.
As if we haven't already uncovered some things that frustrate us. What is something about Texas politics that frustrates you right now?
Well, if I was to say one thing that we should in this whole country and this state should do better, is we have to come up with a better way to getting the funding that's necessary to be able to run a campaign. And I'm working it out, I have got donations from people. But my opponent, the person that will face in the November election, has a $250,000 to $275,000. Nowhere near that am I.
Yeah.
Right. So, and it's from PACs. It's from
Right.
special interests.
Absolutely.
It's from MAGA Republican groups that want to keep us where we're at right
Yep.
now. And that's what's happening. I think that it should be some kind of cutoff, either something. I know people have talked about it, but it has to, because what ends up happening is that makes it difficult for people to have equal representation.
Right.
And the way they win doesn't produce equal representation. It's the rich are the ones that are going to control what happens in our society. And
Right.
that is what's going on with
Right.
these with politics in general.
Right. They've created that on purpose because that's what it
It
is.
is.
And it's great that this time around, people are stepping up and we've become, the term grassroots is very common now. And that's what people want. We don't want all the PAC money. We don't want all those extra donors. We like more help, obviously,
Right.
but we can
But
still do it through grassroots.
Grassroots.
So we've talked about some things that you would like to do when you're in office. With those things, how can your constituents keep in contact with you? How can they hold you accountable through those process, right? Because we know when people come into their campaigns and they have all these things that they want to do, when they actually do get into office, how do we hold you accountable to actually doing those things? What does that look like?
I think that I should definitely lay out, this is what my plans are. I have to get situated, find out what my resources are at the state office. And then once I find details on that, I'm going to come back to the community. And I'm going to make every effort for each one of those 5 counties, those outside precincts or whatever that I'm representing. I'm coming back to them, and I'm always going to come back to them and let them know where we're at. This is what I promise. I promise you that I am going to do everything possible to work to the benefit of the taxpayer. Not for me. I'm a retired educator, and I'm going to make sure I make the time. I asked for this position, just like the ones I applied for that have supported me all my life.
Right.
But I asked for this position. So because I've asked you to put your trust in me to be able to be your representative, I need to come back to you. I need to have the town hall meetings and just lay out where we're at, what help I need from you, what help I need to get whatever I need done completed.
I think it's going to be really important to see our elected officials in the community again. We don't see them. They're always hiding. We're having to leave voicemails in their office. So I think it's really important for our representatives to be more accessible to us, easily accessible, and not just us coming to you, but you coming to us.
All right,
It works both ways.
I saw a state representative years ago when I was working at Toys. If I wasn't participating, I was always paying attention. So I know everybody, all the representatives in most cases. And he was in my store, so I walked up to him. I said, "How are you doing today, Representative?" And he looks at me and he says, "I'm impressed." I think sometimes when people get into those positions, I think that they work for us.
Right.
I think it happens too often. We work for people. If you're a representative of any sort, state, U.S., whatever, You work for the people.
Right.
You answer to those folks. They don't answer to you. And I think we got to readjust that thought process. It would be nice if we could go back to the concept.
Especially at the state level. That's
Yeah.
what it's for.
You have to have things in place.
That's very ideal, and I appreciate your perspective on that. So we still have a while for voting. We don't vote for your office until November, so we have some time. We still have lots of campaigning to do, and it's just really about getting the word out. But even once we do reach that point of election season, early voting October, election day in November, what do you want people to remember about you? When they see your name on the ballot and they go in and vote, what do you want them to remember most about you?
I would like for someone to say, he looked me in the eyes and he told me he made a promise if he's given this opportunity, he's going to work for the common person, the common taxpayer. That's what I want him to know, and I want him to remember. That's what I said. And I believe in being kind. I believe in working hard. And I believe that if you are assigned to a position in life, you have to be the best you can be in every detail. That's the way I see it. And that's what I hope they would see out of me and based on my background. And I used to tell people when I was in interviews, I said, all I would like for you to do, if you can do it, is to just go to my college and just ask, who is this guy? What kind of person is he? And I guarantee you, I won't be worried about what they're going to say because they know that I'm going to do whatever is possible and right to make sure that we do the job properly.
Well, I have one more question. We're leading up to the November election, and what are you going to be doing between now and then? What are you hoping to accomplish and getting your name out there and with people?
So I am right now, my process is every Sunday I go to a church. So those 5 counties that I am a part of, that I'm running for, I find a church to go to, and I go to a church every Sunday. So that's the one kind of concept. And I've already visited 10 churches since I started the process. And then, of course, my campaign manager and I are planning. There are certain areas that I think will be kind to us or probably good voter areas for a Democrat. And there are other areas that may not be, but I still want those voters.
Right.
So I'm going to be pulling those folks together the best I can. I'm going to be making their club meetings. I'll be canvassing. Most of the counties invite me to go canvass, so I go out and canvass at different, either Austin or Colorado or Fayette County, and in Waller County and Morton County. Any of those, if they ask me to come, I'm making it a point. So my Saturdays and Sundays are filled with, from day one till now, filled with me out canvassing. I'm working on different programs to get the vote out, and we should be implementing some of those things here in the next week or so. Basically just focusing on getting out there, getting the vote out, getting a chance to talk to folks, and whatever it takes to get the word out.
Just visibility, just getting your face out there, your name out there.
We want, hopefully, the group of campaigners or people that are running for office, we want to try to get something together, bring everybody together, either a fundraiser or something in the area somewhere, and see if we can bring people out, let us be introduced to the community as a whole. So that's what we're going to be.
Well, that's great. I've really enjoyed speaking with you today, and just want to thank you again for stepping up and showing up and doing the hard work. This is not an easy task by any means. I think you're doing a wonderful job. I see you and I appreciate everything that you're doing. I'm one of your constituents, so I'm glad that I'm getting to know you very well and look forward to having you be my representative that I get to hold accountable and stay in touch with through the process. So thank you again for being here.
And I hope that I can be that person.
Yes, sir. Thank you.